Hey everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry. Now, today we're lucky enough to have a remarkable guest joining us, Mitch DeForest, who is co-founder at Ramped Career. Hello, Mitch. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Barry. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Excited to be here.
Perfect. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really do appreciate it. And I would like to begin by talking about who you are truly on a personal level and your amazing journey. But before we do that, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and the company you work at?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely happy to do that. Like you said, my name is Mitch, born and raised in the United States and based here now. Founded a company called Ramped Careers about 3 years ago now with two co-founders. And our whole sole purpose is how do we help people in the job search? So how do we help them get from where they are today to where they want to go? And we're building an AI job search platform to do that. So it's all about helping people, figure out which career path they want to go down, learn the skills to do the actual job they want, and then prepare for interviews and eventually, actually apply and match with those hiring companies.
What was your life like prior to starting Ramped Careers?
Yeah, how far back do you want me to go here?
Oh, just to the interesting parts. Yeah, let's go that far back.
Let's skip all the boring childhood stuff. No, I always knew I wanted to be a founder. I watched my dad start a company growing up, and I think I don't know, maybe that was just imprinted on me or forced upon me. But I always wanted to start my own thing one day. I never knew quite how to do that. So coming out of university, coming out of graduating, I went and moved to New York City, joined a 4-person company, and figured if I don't know what to do, I might as well just learn from someone who's done it before and follow the founder there who had started and sold 3 companies prior. So that was really cool for me to kind of watch that company go from nothing through seed, pre-seed, seed, Series A fundraising, and kind of grow to the first couple million in ARR there. And then went and sold enterprise software for a bit on my own, and then started Ramped about 3 years ago, like I said, and here we are now.
So when you were younger, did you always know that you were destined for greatness?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I achieved greatness by any means, but trying to just have fun and enjoy the journey.
So what was it that actually inspired you to start Ramped Careers? What is kind of like the story behind this exception?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually just talking with someone about this earlier today. We, like I said, myself and my other two of the co-founders, we all knew we wanted to start a company, and I think there's a little bit of a period like, what do we want to do, right? And we tossed around the typical kind of like B2B type style companies, but nothing really like got us excited and moved us in a way. And then we all kind of realized that independently, we are the go-to resources with our friends and family on like career advice or job search or interview prep. I'm always prepping with friends and family, and we all enjoy coaching and giving back in that way. So that kind of light bulb clicked off. Like, well, the job search sucks. Everybody involved hates it. Whether you're searching for a job or like a hiring manager, it's also brutally hard, right? You get flooded with hundreds of applications, and you got to figure out who to hire based on a sheet of paper. So we started thinking like, how do we play here? What's an obvious business model here? We started a recruiting company because it was an easy way for us to just like cash flow positive and get started. And then started just breaking apart the different pieces of the job search and thinking like, well, how do we build better candidates? Well, most candidates either don't know what they want to do, or they know what they want to do, or they don't have the skills. So we helped people start breaking into tech roles like sales development rep and customer success, and even like call center rep, right? We can teach those roles in under a week or 2 weeks, for a motivated person. And then you create a better candidate, they get a lot of confidence, and then it's a lot easier for them to find a job. So that's kind of how it evolved. And now we're just for the past couple of years figured out how do we keep scaling that. We can only train 20 or 30 people a week hand to hand, but with AI, an opportunity presented itself to now be able to train hundreds, thousands, millions of people asynchronously. So that's kind of where we're at today.
Was the AI development side of it like a natural step? Was it always going to go that way, or was it something that you kind of stumbled into?
No, we were blind. We were racking our brains. How are we going to scale this company? I think we pivoted evolved very quickly from hand to hand, me on the phone training people 24/7 to, okay, let's build content, let's build courses, let's create free courses where people can kind of learn this in real time on their own schedule, and then help them find a job. So the content piece was pretty intuitive. And then when ChatGPT first came out, it was like a light bulb. Like, okay, this makes sense. There's a path here for us to be able to do this in real time, asynchronously, and at scale, right? Like, I can't wait, and we're seeing it already. But personalized education at scale with generative AI is like so cool to me, and it's going to unlock so many doors for so many people.
Yeah. So just to take a little bit of a step back, so you mentioned that you were one of four co-founders, I believe.
Three, yeah.
So three, beg your pardon. So was it something that you all had the same shared interest, or did you all have like unique strengths that you brought to the role, or were you all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet from the start?
Yeah, I think the cool part was that we all believed passionately about the idea, the space, and like with any company, right? It evolves over time. Like that, we started a recruiting company. It was like, how do we make money? How do we pay our rents and help people at the same time? So it's evolved since there, the idea, but the passion for the space, the passion for the job search sucks. It's broken. Everybody hates it. How do we build a better job search has always been there, and that's been shared and collective, which is awesome. And then what worked out just, I guess, perfectly is that we all have different strengths that we play to, right? Like as far as, somebody being a little bit more organized, a little bit more like scale oriented versus, hey, let's, 0 to 1, start this from scratch versus, all the different roles that someone will play in a company. So with three co-founders, we all found and fell into our own roles, but have the shared vision of like, how do we create a better search, a better experience for everybody involved.
Yeah. So 3 seems to be like quite the magic number for starting up a company. I mean, like if there's any disputes, if there's a third person gets to mediate, is that how it works out in practice? You have a mediator within the team when 2 people have contrasting ideas.
No, we just fight. We just fight to the death. No, it's yeah. I don't know. This is the only company I've ever founded, right? So I don't have much outside perspective. For us, we all worked previously together, which was great, like very closely. I lived with one of my co-founders for a bit. So I think we had 4 or 5 years of shared just work experience of, how do we work together? How do we work independently? What are each other's emotions? If someone's throwing a tantrum or someone's upset, and it's bound to happen, especially when you're talking over like making very serious decisions and trying to create this shared life together, essentially, like with any roommate or spouse or partner, it's going to be tough sometimes. So we know how we work. And I think the one thing we do really well, as much as we can, is we remove our egos, right? All of us want to create a better job search. All of us want to be successful in life, but not at each other's expenses. And of course, there's times when, your ego, we're all human, right? It ramps up and it starts to take over. And we do a good job at for all of us at least, stepping back and be like, okay, what's bigger here? So yeah, I'm happy to say like there hasn't been any serious conflicts, and I think 3 is good because you do kind of get those different perspectives, and somebody always is like has the sane mind, right? Is looking at it the correct way, even if other 2 are like running in the wrong direction, or vice versa. So I think it is helpful to always have someone, someone's paying attention at least.
Yeah, I think, like you said, because you live with someone, I think you can only truly know someone when you live with them, and I think you see all faces of the person, don't you? So I suppose that helps to build an even stronger relate.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So, if you're going to sell yourself a little bit, what would you say your biggest strengths are?
Yeah, my biggest strengths are, I think, curiosity. I'm really, really curious, almost to a fault, maybe. But always want to like understand how something's working or why it's working, or rip it apart and really get into it. So really, really curious. I think actually like a fairly positive person, which you definitely need from time to time in a startup. Obviously, again, we're all human. I have my faults too, and there's times when it's like the world's ending and what the hell is going on? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? But no, I think if you can find the positive, and you can always come back to like that mission, vision of, okay, it's not about me, right? It's about how do I help somebody get from where they are to where they want to go. And then doing that, if we do that enough times, great, I'll get to where I want to go as well. So I try to just remind myself that constantly, like take a step back, think about the bigger picture here. Again, like remove your own ego from the situation, from the equation here, and focus on what we're trying to do.
So that's your strengths. Now, being your biggest critic, what would you say your weaknesses are?
Weaknesses, shiny object syndrome, right? Running from one thing to another, not wanting to. I talked about earlier, we all have our own roles, right? I'm not the finisher here. I'm kind of the middle, right? Like one of our partners is like the pure 0 to 1, just like you'll get something going and then like fizzles it out. I can take that and get it to like 1 to 2. And then our other co-founder is like the definitely like 2 to 100. Like he's going to scale it. He's going to make it a real business. So I'm right in the middle, which I think plays an important role. But something for me, like I always got to, make sure that I'm staying focused on the task at hand, right? Like let's get something to a finished state before we just drop it and run on. So I think that's probably a big weakness there.
So it's all been business we've been talking about so far, but we did speak very briefly earlier before we started recording. What do you do to relax and unwind? And if you sound really stereotypical Californian, all the better, yeah?
Yeah, surfing, of course. I was out there this morning and had some fun. I think surfing's great because it's like I was out there this morning and like immediately, without fail, you'll paddle out, catch a great wave, right? It's like you're just in this like flow state and like there's no expectations and the ocean just gives you the perfect wave. You're like, oh hell yeah, it's gonna be a great day. And then you start thinking, you start getting in your head, and you start like second guessing yourself, and you're paddling around, you're looking too hard, and I think that's like the perfect metaphor for business. I was thinking about it this morning. It's like, oh, just gotta relax, and you just gotta like go with it, and almost do less sometimes, right? And stay in the present. And out there, like you'll feel it if you're not in the present. So a lot of surfing, a lot of just hanging out. My wife and I travel essentially full time. When COVID hit, we became, I guess nomads, right? And ditched our apartment in San Francisco and started traveling. So we spent, this whole summer was in Europe, and that was really fun, just exploring and hanging out with new friends and trying out new cultures on for fit.
Perfect. And do you think, like you mentioned, and I can sense your passion for surfing. Do you think there's a link between your like methodology for surfing and your methodology for business?
Great question. I've never thought about it in particular surfing, but I grew up swimming, and I know I've thought a lot about there because, and I guess surfing be the same way, right? Like I said, I'm curious. I wouldn't say I'm the best at anything, especially from the start. Like pretty bad often at things but I'm really curious and like want to try and get excited by doing them. So for me, and this is the same way with business, right? I didn't have the confidence to go start my own company from the beginning. I think like I'm really inspired by a lot of entrepreneurs that come right out of school, don't even go to school, right? They're just like, oh, I'm going to do it. I have no clue what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. And I think that's a really cool trait. I don't have that. So for me, and I'm trying to get better at that, but for me, it's always like, how do I take baby steps? How do I learn? How do I give myself the confidence by, repeatedly doing small little actions or reading or learning from other people who have been there before? So that's how I got good at swimming, right? I wasn't the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, but, I understood, okay, I can learn this, right? I can, work my tail off. I can learn technique. I can be the most efficient in the water. Swimming's all about, to be fast, you need to be streamlined and hydrodynamic, but also have power and hold on to that water. So I think that's how I approach business too, which is, okay, I'm going to go learn as much as I can. But then you do have to take the leap, right? You have to catch the wave. You got to paddle at some point. You got to try to stand up and fall and get hurt and do that over and over again. And then you look back 3 years later, you're like, okay, I'm doing it. And I'm on the wave. I'm riding. So yeah, maybe something like that.
If you ever write a book one day called Surfing in Business, please credit me. Yeah, I would love that.
Oh, well, I'll have yeah.
So, how do you stay motivated and inspired as an entrepreneur, like especially during times when the journey feels like particularly challenging or draining?
Yeah, definitely. I've been going through some draining times recently. I think for me, I think everyone's a little different, but for me, it's all about two things. Like one, how to make it fun again. If if it's not, if I can catch myself early enough in the draining process, I'll realize something early on, like it's not fun. Like why is it not fun? And normally for me that means I'm not learning. Like I'm not pushing. I'm not growing. So I'll go back to that. Like where do I feel like I'm weak, or where can I go learn? So I made the pivot recently into product actually, and had no product background, and took on running product here at Ramped, and that alone has been like this crazy fun journey, but also a crazy challenging journey. So that's always something that I try to go back to is how do I learn, how do I make that fun again, and then how do I step away, like how do I get out of the business, right? How do I go do something completely opposite, whether it is surfing or just getting outside or running around, going for a bike ride, right? Just get my head out of it and get back into like, life essentially, will help me center. And I think that's where having like those two other co-founders is great, because if I'm not picking up on it, they're picking up on it. And, why is Mitch being so cranky, or why is, what's going on, right? And we can kind of like check each other in a good way there, in a healthy way there, I think. And that's always really helpful to have someone, who has your back and has the best intention for you.
Yeah, it's nice when you've got that support, and it seems to be working really well for you guys. So what would you say is the most valuable lesson that you've learned along the way?
In business?
Oh, you pick. Make it exciting. If you want to do personal life or do business, go for it.
I think, man, it's such a good question, honestly. I think that, again, for me, I feel like we're talking about this a lot, and maybe it's just something that like subconsciously, it just keeps coming up for me, but it's like, how do I try to stay present in the moment and not run too far ahead in my mind, and definitely not look back, too much, right? I think looking back is good, but not when you get into like, the dwelling on those mistakes. And that's really tough in business sometimes, because it's easy to second guess, right? It's easy to look back and say, oh man, we should have done that. Like, why did we hire that person? Or like, that was obvious that industry wasn't going to work. Like, what were we thinking? And sometimes it's only obvious in hindsight. But for me, especially right now, it's just, how do we stay present, right? How do we keep that mindset of like looking ahead and thinking about where we want to go, but being open to like pivoting, or being open to change, or being open to grow, and being open to like those new opportunities that might present itself along the way. And that's hard to see sometimes when you're in the thick of it, and when you're grinding, and when the bank account's coming low, or you need to raise another round, or all hell's breaking loose and operations are just a nightmare. Like, how we're going to service these customers that are paying us, but we have to figure it out. So yeah.
So it's not all highs, is it? There are some lows in there as well. That's evident. So some people watching this now might be thinking, do you know what? I really want to be an entrepreneur just like you, and they might be inspired by your story, but they might be holding back, or they might be second guessing and saying, I'm not capable of doing something like that. What would your message be to people who think just like that?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been there for sure. Like I said, like coming out of school, I knew I wanted to do this, but didn't know how to do it. I think go find somebody you can learn from, right? Go find a mentor. Go take a job somewhere where you can learn the skills necessary to do that. And the skills are pretty straightforward, right? You either can go into sales and learn how to sell, or you can go into product and engineering and learn how to build product, right? Even if you're not physically coding, you can go take a route and learn how product comes together, and how that fits into the sales and go to market strategy. So learning just those fundamental skills will give you so much confidence, right? As soon as you understand, like, first of all, everyone's making this up. Nobody knows what they're doing. They're all just making up as they go, right? They're building off the back of somebody else and some knowledge that they gained along the way. And so is that person. So is that person. And that was like super eye opening to me. Obviously, coming out of school is like, oh, okay, this is the game we're all playing. This is great. I just need to learn how I want to play the game. So, I think the easiest way to do it is just to go learn and get your feet wet, and keep pushing yourself as much as you can, as much as you feel comfortable every day, right? Okay, as soon as I feel stagnant, as soon as I feel like I'm not learning, let's go grow. It doesn't have to be something crazy. You don't have to go quit your job and move across the country, but you can, start to challenge yourself a little bit. I think with AI, it's really cool too. What we'll see is that it'll be so much easier for people to start. It'll be so much easier for someone to learn a new skill. It'll be so much easier for someone to build something from scratch without taking these crazy risks. You could just do it on the weekend. I mean, you can do that now, but it still, for a lot of people, feels like this huge daunting task. It'll just get easier and easier over the next couple of years.
So Mitch is basically saying, don't hold back, don't wait, get it done, start your journey now, right?
Start, yeah, as soon as you can, as soon as you can.
So you mentioned like I kind of think the polite way of saying it, but sometimes you don't know what you're doing, so you kind of put your game face on. Do you have a good poker face? And by that I mean, can you see, oh, this is not going well, I've got to smile and pretend that it's all going well? Or are you the kind of person you can see all the emotions and you can see the truth in your face?
I think I don't have a good poker face. I think a lot of times those emotions just roll out of me, right? But I think what I have is a good reflection face, a good face where like 3, 4, 5, 12 hours later, I'll be able to step back and say like, whoa, okay, got the best of me. Awesome. Like, let's go back and check, right? Do we make good decisions? Do we say something we shouldn't have said? And let's fix it and let's resolve it, right? So, and maybe that period's like been shrinking over the years as I gotten older, where like I can catch it in real time. and course correct. But no, I don't think. I think a lot of times my emotions run high and low, and typically they're high in a good way, right? Like positive, and we're just we're out of life. But then oftentimes, especially in like this uh, in a founder role, it can be a roller coaster, and you can feel super low, super low. I think what my co-founder Manoj does really well is he is much more steady and calm and kind of like plays that father figure for us in some way, right? And I try to learn from him, um, how to take all of the chaos and let it come through, and then let it settle and make a decision from there instead of giving into the chaos and the craziness and getting whipped around by it, which is fun sometimes too.
That's where your surfing background comes in, right? The maelstrom, sitting in the eye of the maelstrom.
Yeah, maybe so.
Are there any books or podcasts or documentaries that have had a significant impact on your thinking or personal development?
Yeah, I think in the kind of like business philosophy world, Naval Ravikant, the founder of AngelList, I love his podcast, just Naval, Naval. It's kind of like the perfect blend of like philosophy plus business, and kind of merges the two of those. I think he's got some really good episodes, especially the long ones. Like they're like he just combined most of the episodes. Like have you heard of any of the stuff? It's like
I can't lie, I can't poke a face and say yes in case you ask me a question. So I've got to be honest, yeah.
he'll have like these like 1 minute episodes that he puts out, but then he'll do like a master episode. We'll just combine them into like a 4 hour thing, and you can listen to it, and that's really cool. I like reading a lot of like history books, also all ranges of history, from like business history to like recently I'm on this like pirate history podcast. And I just listen to hours of history about pirates, which is fascinating, and like what pirates actually meant back in the day when it was the 1400s, and it was really just kings and queens ruling, battling each other under the table, to Blackbeard, which everyone knows, which is like this great, just like actual what we would consider pirate, right? Just going out there and pillaging and taking ships. I think all of that is a little bit of like escapism for me, but also you can learn something, right? You realize that, okay, even back in the day, the pirates were trying to figure out how are we going to manage the crew, right? How are we going to divide our plunder when we take a ship? And there's little glimpses of, governments and business and all of that. And you realize that these people have been trying to solve the same problems that we're trying to solve today, for the past hundreds of years. And we haven't figured it out quite yet, but I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
If you were to create a tagline or a slogan for Ramped Careers in the style of like a movie poster, what would it say and what imagery would accompany it?
Yeah, this is good. I wish I was a better
I told
marketer.
you there'd be some unexpected questions.
I wish I was a better marketer. I almost something clever off the top of my head. This is where I just go to ChatGPT and plug this one in. Yeah, I don't know. I think the way I think about it is that the job search sucks, right? And like as soon as you say that, like everyone's like, yeah, the job search sucks, right? It's terrible. And it's funny that like everybody knows it and everybody puts up with it. And what we're trying to do is how do we disrupt in the best possible way, right? Not selfishly for us just to get rich and make money, but to actually do good, to actually fix it. And what that comes down to is how do you teach somebody the skills that they need to be successful on their own? It's like, how do you empower them, right? And if you can teach them to fish, then they can fish for the rest of their lives. And I think we're almost at the point where, with technology, with AI, that you can do that at scale. It's really hard to teach at scale. Obviously, like, again, as a world, we've been trying to do that for a really long time through books and now, through movies and content. Platforms like YouTube have done a really good job at that. Even like platforms like Instagram, a lot of it's, just entertainment. A lot of really good knowledge can be spread through these quick sound bites. And now with generative AI, it's really cool to see where we'll be, what's going to happen to university, what's going to happen to college, what's going to happen to education as a whole when you can teach somebody what they need in real time, personalized to them.
I was hoping you were going to say something along the lines of like Pirates of the Caribbean, and like grab the wheel and navigate to your own destiny. I thought you were going to say something like that, but yours was equally as good as well.
I'm not clever.
If you're looking for a marketer, maybe, saying it. Okay,
we'll take any risk.
So, could you tell me a little bit about the dynamics within your team and how, when you encounter challenges, you kind of work together? Is it automatic, or do you kind of like say, okay, it's time to have like a meeting and have a bit of a storming session?
Yeah, so we've always been a remote company, remote first. I live, like I said, kind of all over the place. I'm in North Carolina, in the United States right now on the East Coast, a partner in LA and a partner that's also full-time traveling. So I say that because we've had to, from the beginning, force these types of conversations a lot of times because I feel like when you're in an office and we're sitting next to somebody, sometimes it happens a little bit more organically. At least, at, my other two previous companies, I wasn't the founder there, but early stage, right? It would happen organically. And I watched the founders, it would happen organically. And you can really pick up on something in the room if it's not right. It doesn't feel right, or like, hey, this decision isn't vibing with everybody in here. In a remote world, we force it, and we sit down. We say, let's block time this week, right? We have our standing meetings, but sometimes those become so routine, right? You just get into the nuts and the bolts, which is good, but you don't build that time to step back. Or someone's back to back. It's like I don't have 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours that I need to have a real conversation. So we try to get together once a month. That's really helpful. And then we try to make time, force these conversations, and just set up the call, which is like, this is a call to discuss this, and it might take an hour, it might take three, but it needs to be discussed. So let's have at it. And I think it's, again, going back to like having three co-founders, it is helpful because there's always somebody that has kind of the voice of reason or like the calm demeanor in the room, which is good, even if two others are trying to hash something out. And again, like I feel like we're all brothers, we're all family, which is the perfect scenario for us. But even in families, right, you need to get into it sometimes. And yeah, so that's how it's worked for us, especially in a remote world.
So that's kind of the relationship between the co-founders. But how do you manage to create like a community of like-minded people? And
Mm.
what are the qualities you're looking for like team members?
Yeah, great question. So we have four people in the company right now, three co-founders, so one other full-time person. So pretty small team. We grew to about 13 at our largest, and then had to cut back when COVID hit, and we changed directions, pretty majorly as a company. So early on, what we were doing is we were looking for those folks who care deeply about the job search, right? About helping people, and maybe helping people is a better word than the job search, because when you get right down to it, it's like that's what it is, right? It's how do you help somebody get from where they are to where they want to go, and it was screened for that, right? You need to have some sort of the technical skill for the role that we're looking for, but it was most often screened for who cares deeply and passionately. Because when you're joining a startup, early stage, seed startup, you need that passion towards the mission or vision. Otherwise, it can be grueling, right? It's long days, it's long hours, it's a lot of uncertainty and unknowns, and you need someone that's good with all that ambiguity, plus cares about what they're putting their energy towards. So that was then. Now we have quite a few contractors and quite a few offshore resources all over the world, and it's still very similar. It's still very similar. It's looking for those people that are aligned with what we're doing, plus have the technical skills and flexibility to work in the crazy startup environment.
Amazing, sounds good. So getting a bit more like theoretical, imagine you had the power to solve one major problem in the world today. What problem would you choose to solve, and how would you go about solving it?
Yeah, I think education, for sure. Education. A lot of the world's problems stem from lack of perspective, lack of knowledge, and I'd solve it through generative AI, right? I'd solve it by giving everybody in the world the resources to be able to be educated on anything they want to be educated on, right? And we may have different interests, we may be going down different paths, but if I can help you uh, get the knowledge of all the people who have come before you and see the past history of it, to get you to where you are today, it's going to give you a lot more energy moving forward, and a lot more visibility, a lot more perspective moving forward, and a lot more confidence to wherever you want to go. So it's still, even in the United States, right, and most countries, there is a gap between what people know and what they need to know in a lot of cases, and that gap is often, what's standing between them is often thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. Which is just crazy. It really is crazy, with today's day and age and with the internet and where we're at. So, I think companies like Khan Academy have done a great job like democratizing basic education. And now I think we're in a place where we can start to even do like higher levels of education and more theoretical, more like meta levels of education, which would be really cool to see, what happens over, our lifetime. What are our kids learning? What are our kids learning? And how quickly are they picking up on stuff? And what that will do for, I guess, humanity.
Sounds like an amazing goal to have. That might be your second project, maybe. It sounds like you're very passionate about that, so I won't be surprised if I see you with a second startup with education at the helm. Um, if you could like swap roles with any other co-founder or entrepreneur for a day, who would it be and why?
I think I don't have a specific person in mind if that's what you're looking for, or maybe like it'd be really fun to like swap with like Elon or Mark or somebody like a Facebook or a Tesla or SpaceX just to see like how crazy their world is. Because I think it's easy for us all to be like, oh, why are they making those decisions? But like, you can't even imagine the complexity that's going into these. But personally, for me, like selfishly, for what I need to learn and know, it'd be how do I swap with a really really good technical co-founder? Right, I don't have any engineering background. I'm in product now and trying to learn as much as I can. But to swap with somebody at like a Spotify, right, or a Netflix, who's built from the ground up, an amazing technical platform. It'll be really interesting to see why you're making those decisions. How did it come about? Uh, how did you make the trade-offs you made, right? From all angles from a technical perspective, because I have a lot of the sales kind of go-to-market strategy background early on in my career, so I'm biased towards that, and now I'm trying to even myself out. And it's so funny now, like looking back and as a sales rep, you're always like, oh, why the hell are they making those product decisions, those engineering decisions? And now on this side, I'm like, why the hell is sales and marketing doing that? You see that the trade-offs on both sides.
So, in your opinion, what are some key qualities or attributes that any successful entrepreneur should have, and how do they embody these qualities in their journey?
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is just curiosity, right? You got to be curious about making change in the world, or curious about solving a problem or helping somebody, whatever your curiosity is, right? Follow that, and then just be tenacious in it and just keep going, like every day, keep moving forward. So having the courage and the grit and the determination to just not stopping, right? And especially when it gets hard, especially when it feels like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to come past this obstacle or whatever it is in your face. Just be able to keep moving forward. And the best entrepreneurs that I've ever seen that do that, maybe they get down, but they're like, reframe their mindset and look at it with a positive light, or convince themselves or sell themselves even in the moment, right? Whatever they need to do to get positive again and get back into the mission, and then just keep moving forward. Even if it's like a baby step, just send the email, make the call, code that one line that you need to code. Just do whatever you can to move the ball forward, and get some momentum going again.
That's great advice. Really good. Two more questions before we unfortunately have to come to an end, because I know you're very busy. But building and leading a team is crucial for entrepreneurial success. What have been some key lessons you've learned about team management and fostering like a positive work culture?
Yeah, great question. I don't think I do this exceptionally well today. I'll tell you, like, I've had some mentors or some, managers who have done it really well. And what I learned from them was to, as much as you can, care about helping that person get to where they want to go. In any work relationship, it's always two-sided, right? Let's say I'm the company, right? I need to get something out of you, which is typically like some sort of productivity, some work, some effort. And you need to get something out of me, which should be, some money, hopefully some fun, some passion, some learning, whatever it is you need to learn. So as much as you can align those two things, both parties feel like they're winning, both parties feel like we're in this together and can move forward together. So how do I help you, employee or contractor, whoever you are helping me help you, right? How do I get you from where you are to where you want to go? And in doing that, if we're aligned, then I'll benefit as well. So as much as you can care about the human in front of you and helping them, I've found that it's been really successful. As me as the human on the other end, right, as the employee, and then as the manager as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really human and personal way of seeing it, and it's nice to hear like people who manage their companies to have that human contact and that personable approach to things.
I mean, it's definitely hard, right? When you get in the moment and you're like, we need to hit these deadlines, or we need to hit these sales goals, or we need to hit this, this number, to forget about it. But as soon as you forget about it, and as soon as you let the company take over, you're done, right? All the company is a bunch of humans helping each other out, and as soon as you lose that, you're not a company anymore, right? You'll be gone before you know it.
Definitely. And the final piece is just before we end, to any entrepreneurs out there who are watching this now, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, just start. Just start. Whatever that means for you, right? That could mean reading a book. It could mean listening to a podcast, watching a YouTube video. It could be just picking up the phone and calling a friend and brainstorming ideas. Just start. Just start. And then every day build. Every day get a little bit more, do a little bit more, do a little bit more. At some point, you're going to have to take what might feel like a big leap of faith, but it's not that big in the grand scheme of things. Like you probably won't die. You'll probably be able to pick yourself back up and find another job. If you could imagine being an entrepreneur, you can always find another job, right? You always have a safety net. So at some point, you'll have to really, really go for it. But just start.
What amazing advice. That's perfect. Thank you. Mitch, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to speak with us today. It really was a pleasure talking with you. And that was Mitch DeForest, co-founder of Ramped Careers.